Hey, aspiring author. In today's Author Spotlight, I'm sitting down with three-time author Candace Therese Beckford for a heartfelt and informative conversation about her real journey of writing and publishing books. Candace opens up about her writing process, the publishing process, how she navigated personal challenges, leaned into her faith, and stayed committed to writing even when life felt heavy. If you've ever wondered how to keep going, stay inspired and balance, and actually accomplish your writing dreams with everyday responsibilities, this conversation will encourage you right where you are. Grab your tea, get your notebook and pen, and tune in because this conversation is so rich and you're going to learn and gain so much out of it. Let's go. Ready to write your first book and make an impact? Do you wish you could organize your book ideas without feeling overwhelmed and actually find the time to write and finish your book? Hey, I'm Donna Cherie, a book writing coach and author. Welcome to Book Writing Made Simple. Inside this podcast, I'll teach you how to get a clear vision for your book idea, get organized, keep it simple, and develop a writing plan so you can finally get your book out into the world. Grab a notebook and pen with your favorite cup of tea. Before we jump into today's Author Spotlight interview with Candace, I want to take a moment to properly introduce you to her because Candace's journey is layered, powerful, and full of wisdom for any aspiring author listening. Candace Therese Beckford is a three-time published author and educator whose work blends creativity, education, and personal experiences. She is the author of Reality as It Is in the Mind of a Teenager, The Monster Under My Bed, and Birth Anew, From Pain to Passion to Purpose. In each of these books reflect her heart for storytelling, growth, difficult conversations, being a teenager, and transformation. What I love about Candace's creativity is that she began her career in healthcare as an occupational therapist, later transitioned into education through homeschooling her children, and is now a special education teacher and the founder of Infusion Academic Enrichment. She brings such a unique blend of creativity, education, and lived experience into her writing, and her target reader has been children a lot of times. And you can truly feel that depth of her writing in this conversation. She's so kind, she's so sincere. Now, quick housekeeping note before we fully dive in. Out of full transparency, the actual interview kicks in at about the 12-minute mark because I totally forgot to hit record at the beginning. And I just want to let you know when you hear the recording that you're not thinking, dang, this next question is out of nowhere. So please forgive me, my apologies. But trust me when I say this episode is still packed with writing and publishing gems, encouragement, and honest insight that you don't want to miss and that you can incorporate in your writing process as well. So tune in, and I pray that this episode blesses you so much. Okay, so as you were writing your second book, what was the writing process like for you as you were writing this book geared toward youth? Did you utilize any resources or tools or mindful of information that you put in this book or things that you shared? What was that like for you?
Um, so in writing the second book, I didn't really have anyone per se to help me with it. It was just me writing the words and the ideas that came to my mind. I knew that I was gearing it towards children, and so I was definitely. I mean, like when I say children, I'm not talking about like 3 to 5 year olds, but more so like 8 to 12 year olds. Children that have, I guess, a greater awareness of, like, self-image and, like, because at 3 to 5, not to say that they don't struggle with things of that nature, but I think it's more common as you get older into like the middle school
Mhm.
age. And so when I was writing it, I was sure to like include language that would tailor to that specific age group that they could understand and still not necessarily dumbing it down per se, because I always feel like it's important to like teach up, so still like put words that, might be a little bit, like, well, what does that mean? Let me look it up or let me ask, just so that way, children can still learn while reading my book.
Yes.
And yeah, so I really didn't have someone to help me per se, but I just had that mindset that like I knew the target audience I was going for. And so that kind of helped me to like curtail how I was saying what I was saying in the book.
Okay. And how long did it take you to write this book?
It didn't take me too long because maybe like in like 2 to 3 sittings, like first kind of getting down my initial ideas of like what I wanted to be about. And then like the second time, like I wrote it out. And then the third time, kind of like going over it, making sure like, okay, did I say what I want to say? Does it all make sense? Um, I think um like hardest part for me was like the illustrations because being a children's book, I wanted it to be pictures. And so I I'm not like the best drawer per se or illustrator, but I can draw a little bit. So I drew out what I wanted the scenes to look like. And so I made pictures and that went with the words. And so that took me some time too. And so I would say like 3 to 4 sit downs with the book and including the drawings is how long it took for me to like finish it.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Was that like less than a year?
Yeah, it was. Like it took less than a year to actually write the book itself. I initially didn't seek to publish it right away
Mhm.
because I knew that I needed to get like real illustrations done. So I had to, but God worked it out. Like God is so good. And when you are just in alignment with him and doing what he's called you to do, he will orchestrate your steps and direct your path and put people in line with you to help you on your journey. And at the time when I was looking for someone to draw, like illustrate my pictures, I had a friend who had interned, like graphic design interns working for him. And he said, give me your pictures. And it became their assignment for him to illustrate my book. So literally,
Wow.
they took my prototype of what I've drawn and they brought it to life. Girl, like
Wow.
Jesus. So it's like he made a way for my illustrations to be done for free. It was done for free.
Wow.
It all came
Wow.
together.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-mm-mm. Wow,
Yes.
that is wonderful. And so when did you decide to write a fictional memoir, and what was that writing journey like composing it?
Well, that fictional memoir, I started writing that book like 20 no, no, yeah, 2017. And it wasn't even initially meant to be a book per se, which has been the journey for all my writings, I realize. It's not necessarily meant to be a book. It's really a way for me to express what's inside and for it to come out. And so at that time, I was just really struggling with a lot of like my child experiences, dealing with child abuse, sexual abuse, you know, um, divorced parents, and just just the strain that it had on me. Coming out of like living in a broken marriage and just coming out of that marriage, it was just so much stuff that I was dealing with in life that I needed a space to get it out of me. I had to because at the time, I wasn't talking to anyone, I didn't have a counselor, and so the only way I knew how to release was to write. So I just began to write, and just write this out and write a story, and I didn't wanna write it in a way that people could identify me.
Mhm.
So I said, I gotta change names. I just gotta make up another character. And so initially it was just me kind of venting and just I literally hand wrote it out by hand. I just had a notebook and I wrote every word out. It took me a long time. I did it in pieces. And when I was done, then I said, let me type this up now. This needs to be digital. So then I typed it up, and in the typing process, I was, adding things or deleting things or refining things and just, kind of even building on it more as I was typing it up. And then when I was done with that, I realized that I needed to find a way to talk about forgiveness because like God showed me like, all of this is great. You wrote it all out and you released it, but you're still holding on to a lot of the pain and the anger that this has caused you. And so I had to find a way to tie in like, really just releasing this pain and seeking forgiveness of those who have hurt me and even to forgive myself. And so that kind of helped me like to tie it all together. And once that was done, I knew that, okay, I need to publish this book. But I was scared because if you knew me, you knew what I was talking about. You knew who it was. You just knew, even though I changed the names. Like if you knew me personally, you knew. And I was scared to incriminate anyone or I was scared to make anyone feel offended. So I was like, I can't publish this. I just gotta no, I can't. And so I left it. I just didn't do nothing. And maybe like a year or 2 later, I was at, I think, some church like a church service, and it was just the pastor was talking about, like, your testimony, being able to share, like, God doesn't allow us to walk through things for us to keep it to ourselves. He brings us out because he's gonna use us for his glory to help others, and I just felt the conviction, like, of the Holy Spirit, like, nudging me, like, "Candace, it's time. You gotta do something with your work." And so I was like, "All right." So, because I already worked with, Austin Macaulay Publishers previously, I sent it to them, but I also sent it to other people too, just to see what they would offer. Um, and I stayed with Austin Macaulay Publishers still, and I went ahead and had them publish the 3rd book, Birth to New. And, that book, I was really scared because, like I said, I didn't wanna offend anyone, but then God made me realize I'm not offending anyone. If anyone's offended by it, that they need to check their hearts because I'm just speaking the truth. I'm sharing my story and I don't have to worry about anything. And so I just let the fear go of it and I just went full force with having it published.
Wow. So much to digest in what you just
Yeah.
said, but, I mean, fear and being afraid of sharing our personal testimony is a real thing,
Mhm.
in writing a book, and I remember I felt that as well when I was writing, my book
Yeah.
Untarnished, but I just
Mhm.
knew I had to do it, and I was like, "This is my truth," I'm telling my
Yes.
truth and what I've overcome and letting God get the glory. Mm.
Yes.
So for, like, the person who's listening, I just wanna say that just because you might feel fear doesn't mean that you should stop or that you shouldn't write or that you shouldn't publish. It just means that you need to keep going and trust God in the process.
Yes.
Um And then since you've written like 4 books and published 4 books, in what ways are your books now making a kingdom impact? Like, in what ways have you seen God just show up and move through your books that you can think of?
Mm. God, he wastes nothing. And even with the hardship of even writing about like the painful experiences, God has opened so many doors for me to testify of his goodness. Since I wrote this book and I did a book launch in my local town, and I was able to read and share excerpts, and people have come up to me and just first just thank me for being so open and honest and vulnerable. And there's a lot of me too's. Yes, I can relate. And people cried with me. They hugged me. They wanted to like hold my hand. I held some people's hand. It allowed people a space to let their hair down and not to be afraid to acknowledge that they had painful experiences and that they too can experience freedom through sharing and releasing it. And you know, God had also allowed me the opportunity to speak at a church. It was a program called End It Now, and it's like talking about domestic abuse and violence. And my previous pastor, knowing my story, invited me to come to speak. And I literally shared my testimony, shared my book, and so many people that day like stopped me to talk to me. They prayed with me, they cried with me, they expressed to me how they had walked with some situations. And it's like almost when God allows me to share my book and my testimony, it's almost like people are experiencing a breakthrough for themselves because they see a woman up there who seems put together, right? Because
Hmm.
you see me, you don't even think I've been through what I've been through, but it testifies of God's goodness that even if you go through hard things and even though you experience these things, God can still turn it around for you and you can still live an amazing, fulfilling life. And He will use our pain for His glory and strengthen us through the painful times. And
Yes.
from that experience preaching at the church, it was recorded live, it was broadcasted on YouTube. Someone else saw it and called me and was like, I need you to speak on, they have this like prayer, this character building prayer line that they do every Thursday. And people come on and share their testimonies. And she asked me to come on and share my testimony. I did the same thing there. There were so many people blessed by that. And that was like a worldwide platform. So people all over the world are on this line at like 6 in the morning. And when I was on there, I mean, the amount of people in the room, I was like, people are serious about this. And I was able to share on almost like a global scale, you could say, how God has delivered me from such a painful past. And from that experience, a woman who was on the line that lives in Brooklyn, I'm upstate New York, but she got my number and she asked me to come speak at her church in the city. So from there, I was able to share. And once again, so many people were just blessed. And every time that God gives me a chance to share, I'm strengthened. I feel more empowered and more bold to speak, even though the pain is still there when I'm talking about it. But there's a renewed boldness and confidence that I have in Christ that, for such a time as this, God is using my pain for a purpose to help others who do not have the courage and strength to speak up, to have a moment to break free from their bondage because it's a bondage. And if you don't know how to break through from it, you can be stuck for the rest of your life. And God doesn't want us to live that way. He wants us to be able to break free from these things that chain us. But some people don't know how. And God saw fit that He chose me to be able to speak, and people are having a chance to be set free. And
Mm.
so, yeah.
Yes. And that's so beautiful, so amazing. God is just so good. And like you said, He can take our pain and use it for His glory and for a greater purpose. And it just also shows how your books have been needed in the earth, to inspire and encourage and to help other women be free.
Yes.
So I always just stress how writing a book, it is for us personally, to help us with our journey and to heal in other ways, but also for that next person, that next woman, and
Mm,
that multiplication to be able to make a kingdom impact. And I love of what you shared of how your books are making a kingdom impact locally and globally.
man.
So, are you in the works of writing another book?
It's funny, like, this 4th book, the editor is like, because right now it's, like, in the editing, like, phase, like, we had our revisions and, um, it went through formatting, so, like, by June, this 4th one should be, like, out, and asked me, she said, "I don't know how you do it, working full time, you got all these kids, and I'm sure you're working on a 5th book," and I chuckled because I really hadn't started thinking about a 5th book, but she said that to me, and I felt the nudge. I was like, "Yeah, it's time. It's time for another book. It's time." I was like, "God, all right, Lord. So you gotta give me the word. What's the word? What's the word?" And he did put something in my spirit to write about, and it's funny because it's from my experience and pain, but it's from a different perspective, It's from the other side, from the side of the abuser, because
Mhm.
the abuser, Jesus, the abuser needs healing too. The abuser needs to be set free too.
Yes.
And God, despite the wrong we do, we're all sinners. But God loves everyone, even the abuser. And when I think of it that way, that's why we have to forgive, even though it's so hard. But God will forgive the abuser if he repents and look at him as if he did nothing wrong.
Hmm.
And I'm like, so it's like the next book is going to come from the other's perspective, the other side. I'm not sure how yet it's going to come out, but that's
Mhm.
just what he put in my spirit. So yeah, I'm going to work on another book.
Wow. And I guess you kinda answered my other question of what role has the Holy Spirit played in your book writing process or journey? Or I guess
Yeah.
let me ask you this, how did you know that it was the Holy Spirit leading you to write these books? I guess I
Mm,
can ask that.
yeah. In my life, when God speaks to me, it's like the sign is it always like shows itself up. Like either like the theme would kind of reiterate itself a lot of times, and it's like it's brought to my attention, or like someone would say something to me in one situation, one scenario, and someone totally unrelated would say the same thing. I'm like, okay, God, you're talking. So it was moments like that where like I knew like it was time based upon conversations that were happening, or how it was almost like people would confirm what was said previously by someone else, and it was like totally unrelated.
Mhm.
So I just, even with the 4th book that's right now, like, when I first wrote that book, I wrote it in 2020, and I feel like the space I was in was like I was just like in a venting space again, just dumping like a lot of the things I was feeling. But the way I wrote it was like I felt like it wasn't really characteristic of me, like as a Christian woman. I just wanted to just get it out of me. And in writing that, I was like, this book ain't ever get published. This is just gonna sit here. Like, and I really was like, nope, can't publish this. But God, when God says it's time for something, he makes it very clear. 2025 now, I'm going through my old writings and my folders, and I saw the book. I'm like, oh, let me read this. 5 years later. But when I read it this time, I had new lens. I had a new lens. And I'm like, this is a good book, but it's missing something. And I knew I had to tie it all together, bringing it back to give God the glory. And when I wrote that last chapter or afterward, 5 years later, I was like, God was like, it's time. Like, I just knew. So I'm like, it's not like he led me to find the book after all these years. I
Wow.
knew that I was ready now. it was time for me to publish it because back then it wasn't time. I wasn't ready,
Mhm.
but he brought me back to it, and then it was time. And when I sent it out, it was just like, yeah, and and this time I'm going with a different publisher, and I'm so happy with them. I'm so happy. So yeah.
Wow, so a couple things I heard you say there is that God, he will confirm, more than once to make sure that is him,
Hmm.
and that it will be clear. And, I always say too that it won't leave you alone. Like,
Yes, like
we got
a nudging, right?
yes, yes. So, um, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for
Oh,
sharing,
you're welcome.
Um, so regarding publishing, because I do get a lot of questions about, how do I find a publisher? I don't know if I should self-publish or if I should go the traditional route. Um, what are some tools or resources that you could share that will be helpful to someone who aspires to write a book?
Okay. Well, there are, like you said, there are two routes to publishing. You could definitely do self-publishing, where pretty much you're doing all the work yourself. And if you go the traditional route of publishing, where you go through a publishing company, there's still like two tracks in that option as well, because most publishing companies are not giving like full traditional contracts where like they just cover all the costs and publish you for free. Especially if you're like a new author, because it's like cost to benefits ratio and like they don't know you, people don't know you. So like most of the time they offer a hybrid model, which is what I've had all these times I've published. Is like where they pay a portion of the cost of publishing and then you pay a portion of the cost of publishing. And I like that model for me personally because you know you still you're still investing into your work, but you have someone literally walking beside you the whole step of the way. And they're fully invested as well because they're also putting money into publishing your book as well. So they're literally walking side by side with you. And so I think a great tool that can be used is to just research the different types of publishing companies that are out there. There's so many different ones. And they all operate differently. And even with me going with a different publisher this time, I'm with Kohler this time. Just the way that their model is different from Austin Macaulay, and I like this model better. And I wish that maybe I had took more time to like explore other publishing companies after my first book, But I was just so like, well, I've been with Austin Macaulay, I'll just stay with them. But I mean, it's good to like shop around to see what the best one could be for you because it's different for everyone. Um, and then I would also suggest just ask other people for like their like kind of like what we're doing here. Just hearing from other authors and their feedback to see, what works because what's good for one may not be good for another, And so
Right.
for some people, self-publishing is the way to go. Like I have a friend of mine who he's just been picking my brain and he decided to publish it himself. He wants to retain complete ownership of his book, and he wants all the
Mhm.
royalties, which is fine because there is that benefit of when you do it by yourself. So it just depends on what you're looking for and how much support you have as an author as well. Because if you have a lot of people around you and support, maybe self-publishing could really work. But if, you're someone that doesn't really have a lot of people around you to help you with your marketing and maybe having a publishing company work with you might work better.
Yes. Yeah, so it just depends on the person's goals
Yeah.
and what they desire to do with their book and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and before we wrap up, I want to go back real quick because you did share, Candace, that you're working full time, you have children, other things going on, all that, a lot of roles and responsibilities. How did you or I guess, what does your writing schedule look like?
Well, a lot of time like, now, currently, with the way my life is, I got my notepad. I just jot things down as they come to me, um, and I keep track of my thoughts and, there, and then I get up early in the morning, like, do my devotion, and then I try to take a moment just to think or to write or just to add on to what I've been thinking. It's hard. It really is hard because time is so limited, and, as of late, like, it's hard to find the time to sit and write like I want to, and that's the truth, but the best way that I keep myself going is by using my notepad. I just jot things down, I write everything there. When I get a moment to sit at my computer, I just transfer it over.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, hey, if that system works for you.
For now, until, some a pocket of time opens up. Cause yeah, it's hard, it's so busy, you
Mhm,
know? But, and it's funny because, like, when I was actually, like, going into work in the city, I would use my lunch breaks to write, sometimes, like, if
mhm.
I'm lesson planning or whatever and I'm done early, I had, like, 10 minutes left, I would write. So I would just really use any moment of time I had that was free to write. So 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes there, train rides back and forth. All that time would add up to giving me good time to get good amount of work in.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And what's one thing you could share with the women of faith who are listening to this show who desire to write their first book, but they don't know how to get started?
I would say don't focus on the book. Because when you think about the end result, it can feel so big and overwhelming, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get there? Don't focus on the end result. Focus, like bring yourself to the tip of your nose and just write your words on paper. And as you write, it would all start to come together. Just write, don't focus on the end. Focus on right where you are. And I think that would help to eliminate fear or just the feeling of overwhelmness or the ambiguity of it all, Just bring it back and just focus on like where you are right now. Just get your words out, get your thoughts out, put it on paper, start there.
Okay. All right. And how can people connect with you? Or if they want to grab a copy of one of your books or all of your books, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram as birth_new. And I am also on Facebook as Candace Therese Beckford. And also my books, my first 3 books were published under Candace Mezzatine. So if you type my name in on Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, Target, like all the major like book forum platforms, you can find my books there, under Candace Mezzatine, and you type in the title. Um, but yeah, those are the ways. I also just recently created an author's website. That's www.ctbeckford.com. And you can also find links to all my books there as well. And then, so yeah, those are ways you can reach out to me. Um, my email, Candace Beckford 831 at gmail.com. Another way to reach me. And yeah,
Okay. Yeah. And definitely, if you're listening and you want to bring Candace to your church, your community, or an event, definitely reach out to her, send her an email regarding speaking engagements.
yeah, I'd love to. I love to.
Well, thank you so much, Candace, for coming on the show today and just sharing your personal book writing journey, your author process. I just pray that the Lord continues to bless the work of your hands, that He covers you, watches over you, and that you continue to be strong, bold, courageous, and keep going forward and making a kingdom impact. I'm so grateful to have met you and just want to encourage you to keep moving forward.
Yes, I'm grateful for you too. Your testimony is powerful and what you're doing is amazing. And I'm so grateful to get to know you and just to be connected. And it's a blessing. I'm so grateful to be here and just to have this opportunity as well. So thank you too as well. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, guys. Until next time. Ciao. Thanks for tuning in. I hope today's episode inspired you to take that next step to write your book. Remember, small steps lead to big results. If this podcast has blessed you in some way, be sure to leave a written review on Apple Podcasts. Your support means the world to me, and it helps others to find the show. Also, be sure to pass on the inspiration by sharing this episode with a friend who could benefit from this message. God bless you, sis, and never, ever give up.